I might not have recorded a few of them, but anyway, so this is the fifth one. I can't believe that. And I did not record a couple of them, but anyhow, so let me finish up so we can say goodbye. If you have a lawyer, that doesn't mean that they know anything about immigration, because they have to be an immigration lawyer for them to know. So they'll be just like us. But really, unless they're immigration lawyer, they really do not have any, they really do not even know where to start. So so anyhow, but we can figure it out. We really can. We don't really need a lawyer. My brother-in-law for immigration said, Merlina, if you hire a lawyer, they're not really gonna give them an edge. They don't. If they use an agency that doesn't give them an edge, it's the same equal you know, chance when you do it yourself. So you do not think that just because you paid somebody some money that it's gonna be given an advantage. We don't do it that way. He said, we judge it by the merit of the application. So they look at all the documents, and that's how they judge it. Because when I went in Dallas to visit my sister, my brother-in-law was doing his immigration paperwork. He does Mexico, so there's no conflict of interest. So he doesn't do Philippines at all. So I was asking him lots of questions. I said, well, you know, how does this work or whatever? And that's when he told me that, you know, if it's H-1B, do not let them hire an agency because they don't need it. They just need to follow directions, you know, and do it between the school and them, and because they're just wasting the money. You know, lawyers and agencies, they read the direction just like you would, but then they charge you $6,000. That's the difference. So instead of, you know, I mentioned earlier, instead of charging the school $6,000, they want to charge the school $12,000. So instead of getting 4 people, they only could afford 2. You don't want that. So yeah. So do not sign any, and this is what I'm telling the 4 people that are coming, do not sign any contract or anything with anybody for this H-1B visa. You do not. I don't care what they say about, oh, I'm a lawyer, is going to be this. Don't listen, because you will be stuck. Once you sign a contract, there was this one teacher that happened. She signed a contract with this agency, and this agency never helped her find a job. So she found a job on her own. And guess what happened? The agency still wanted to get paid because she signed the papers. So you do not sign any papers, okay? Because they don't have to do anything and still want their money. So you don't want that at all, okay? So that's why I'm telling people. J1, yes, you need a sponsor, but they have to be on the list. H1B, no, you don't need anybody. So just follow directions, okay? So I think that's all I have. I felt like I talked too much, and I really want you all to talk to me or to tell. Okay, so I'm going to go by, and every one of you that's still left here, tell me something that you learned from this session. I know we did a lot, because usually I try to let it flow, like whatever people will bring up, that's what I usually try to, you know, go with. And so hopefully you pick up 1 or 2 things for me. Can you share what you picked up, the Elvin and wife? Can you tell us what did you pick up that you can share with others? If you don't mind.
The culture, the different cultures that we have, like the blacks and the whites. I mean, so you have to understand the different behaviors also your children would be manifesting during, let's say you're being exposed to the black group. They're conversant, and let's say they're expressive and noisy sometimes, dancing. So you have to understand that culture. But for the white, quite tamed, silent probably.
There's some like also that misbehave. There's always a 10% that misbehave, you know.
Yeah, but the difference is that we got the difference now. Even the churches that we're supposed to be attending, because we are actually born again Christian here. We in our church we have drums and everything. So
hallelujah, like that, like a black church. Yeah.
Yes,
but I
we're
love
dancing.
That. I love that. I like that better.
And whenever I tried attending in a Baptist church, they were very silent and just playing a guitar, and then the pastor is quite boring, and unlike us, we dance.
That's a good example.
That's worship.
That's what I'm going to use now. Like a born again Christian and a Catholic. That's what I'm going to start using. Thank you. And I'm in Church of Christ. My husband is Church of Christ, and in Church of Christ, we don't even have any instrument at all. It's just your voice. So it's very quiet. Like when I look around, I'm like, oh my gosh. this is like so boring because there's not even and the walls don't have any saints or anything, no pictures, no nothing. And I'm just like looking around and I'm like, this is feeling so weird to me. And so of
You're
course
not
I
used
had
to
to
it.
do like a 1.5 years I did correspondence course with the preacher, like the priest equivalent. And I did a correspondence course because I wanted to compare the Catholic to the Church of Christ, because my husband will never switch to Catholic and I wanted to raise our children in church. And so it could be his church or my church, I don't care. I just want them to be raised in church and be good people. And so anyway, so once I found out that it's really the same, I mean, the same Bible, they just, the difference with the Catholic is that they focus a lot about Old Testament, while the Church of Christ is mostly start from Jesus' birth. So it's out in the New Testament. And that's a huge difference. And that Church of Christ, we do not believe in like doing those, garbs, the costume and stuff. You just be a regular person talking. And if you pray straight to God, whatever. You don't
Yes.
have to confess to somebody. You talk straight to God. And that is the big difference. And they do not like some of the older ones. Some of the older ones actually do not want you to be dancing or singing. So, but no, I said, no, we're dancing and we're singing. We're Filipinos. We are doing karaoke, guys. So, yeah, they were laughing about that. But yeah, and I think on our church, when we're talking, this is still part of culture, by the way, that in churches here, because you're going to have students from different churches, like your Jehovah's Witness. Kids, if you have Jehovah's Witness in your classroom, they're not going to celebrate holidays. They're not going to celebrate
Yes.
Christmas. They're not going to say, so you do not need to, like if you have Christmas parties, which, we have Christmas parties in the classroom, then you need to make sure that you're aware that the Jehovah's Witness, you can tell them they don't have to attend that day if that's all you're doing. Or if
Yes.
if that's just part of your day, you can ask them to like arrange with a counselor. Can this child sit with you? Or as the parent, what do you want to do? Do you want the child to be here and just observing? Or do you feel like if they're going to be left out, do you want me to send you, could you want to pick them up early? Something. You have to work with the parents, because that is part of a cultural thing here. And so so like a joke for the Church of Christ, they say, there was a bunch of people in heaven, and then they said a bunch of people from Baptist and Catholic and all that, and they said, shh. I said, why? What, the Church of Christ are over there and they think they're the only ones in heaven. that's their joke, that that they think the Church of Christ believe that, yeah, we're the only one that goes to heaven, but that's not really true. They were just making fun of us. But anyway, I think that's a good joke. Be quiet, they're the only ones, they think they're the only ones. Anyway, so yeah. So those are, so the food, so the cultures would include that language, you cannot, this is one thing that they told me, Dr. McCullough, I could not understand what so-and-so saying. My request was so funny. She said they would have an announcement, right, in Helena. They would have announced it every morning. They have an announcement of this is what's going to do. We have a PD on Wednesday. We have to do this. I understood every one of them. But then she didn't. And she said, what I only understood the first month or two is thank you. At the very end, the principal would say thank you. She said, that's the only thing I understood. I said, she was speaking English the whole time. And she said, yeah, but she was like so fast. Like she was just eating her words. And now she understood it later, because you have to get used to that. That's why talking to you, I speak in English, because I want you to be aware of how that's how an Arkansas person would actually talk to you during interviews. They're not going to speak Tagalog to you or whatever, but Tagalog's awful anyway. So anyway, so you have to get used to it, because if you like talk to my husband, my friends are saying, your husband talks so fast, and he does to us, but then you get used to it. And so anyway, so you have to be aware of that. So when you do your interview, you was like, excuse me, come again, it's okay to do that. And you would say, sometimes sometimes you just say like a white lie, like, oh, I have a technology issue. If I have to say, ask you, it's broken. You can kind of say that, but sometimes it's because you can understand them and you have to repeat it. And I felt bad. Like me, I have one of my, I think this side is, I have hearing issues there. So I have to like change hearing, because I'm like, what is it again? I would say that, and that's showing my age, of my 54-year-old age. But but anyhow, but don't be afraid to ask, that, can you please repeat that again? Come again? I would say, they say me do that all the time. So don't be, I guess be open. The culture is different, but be open. And they love our food. So that's one thing, like your potluck, like when I'm thinking about my orientation, I'm thinking about doing it on a Saturday. Well, I have to wait for you if you're coming. But anyways, on a Saturday, and explain all these things, and then have a lechon and have like a potluck thing, and all this, and everybody brings something. That's my dream, because there's about more than 30 people in there. So I thought the lechon would be nice, right? Because the people that were here last year, they missed that. When I have occasion at my house, I have lechon. And so, but my gosh, it's expensive. It's like $350, $400. So 20,000 pesos for a lechon. How much is a lechon there where you are? A whole lechon.
Maybe 5,000 pesos.
Times 4 here then.
Yes.
Times 4. Yeah.
You can buy at least 3,000 to 4,000.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I wish, because every time I have an occasion, it's like 350, and then if they deliver it, another 50. I usually tip another 50, so 400. Or I pay for the gas.
If you have your pig at the farm.
Well, we have a farm here, the Amish farm. We have an Amish. Do you know what an Amish is? They're
Yes.
like, yeah. So we have an Amish community in Salem. And so it's just 5 minutes from me, 10 minutes from me. And they have pigs. So I would like, one time I was like, I had a friend here that her family in Bohol actually had a lechon business. So she knew what to do. And so I would go to the Amish and I would buy the pig, right? And I would tell the Amish, can you please, like instead of like, they would always like not scrape them before, I would tell them to scrape it like we do in the Philippines. And then I tell them not to cut the back part so that we can put the pole in. And she was like, we were doing it by hand, like it was the Filipino way. But
Yeah.
one time I got a really big one, like 300 kilos. No, close to 100 kilos, really big. So it was like so heavy. And by the time my party started in the afternoon, it was not ready. So I'm like 1 hour and I'm like, oh my God, this one is still not ready. So what I did was we got it, we put it on the table, we cut it in fourth, and I sent it to 3 people. I said, okay, my sister, go cook this in your house. My friend 1, go cook this at your house. And my friend 2, cook this at your house. And then I'm cooking one. And then we put it together there in the basket when they got done. That's what we had to do. So it's all cooked. All the 4 pieces were cooked, but they were cut up because there's no way that we would have had meat, Anyway, that's part of the culture, and they do not have, they don't have that in theirs. So what they do here in Thanksgiving, Christmas, they always have turkey. Pabo sa
Yes.
atin. Ano yan? I don't know if we have that in the Philippines already, but they eat rabbits. Some people in the South would eat squirrels. And my husband would, like the other day in my yard, the squirrels were eating all the food for my birds. And so I told my husband, I'm like, and they are spilling everything. So I was so mad. And then they went to my garden. I have this garden that's about the size of this room. And they were eating my tomatoes, just eating a little bit of it and then throwing it away. And I had this wasted tomatoes, the big tomatoes, all over my garden. So I was telling my husband, I wanted to shoot some squirrels today. So I feel bad because he got 2 of them that day. And I said, no, quit. I'm done. I'm not mad anymore. But I was just so aggravated that I said, I don't care if you eat it. Just eat the whole thing. Do not like waste it, I worked so hard in my garden and they just like did 1 bite and just on the ground. Anyway, so I ended up that day, I worked for like hour and a half picking up all the tomatoes I could pick. If they already turned colors, I was picking them up. I was not going to have these squirrels wasted. But anyway, so those are some cultural things that are different when you come in. And then some of them also eat frogs. Those big old bullfrog things. In the South, they would do like a light, like a flashlight that they wear here. And they would spotlight some frogs and they would catch them. And then they would eat them. They would eat the legs. They call them frog legs. And so when I go to some restaurant and I see frog legs in the buffet, so I always ask, are you cooking these frog legs with the same oil as the other ones? Because I do not like frog legs. And they said it tastes like chicken. And in Louisiana and on south part of Arkansas, which is close to Louisiana, they eat alligators. They eat alligators there. And they said the alligator meat is, my granddaughter said that the alligator meat is like chicken. She said, it's actually a better chicken, So what are the things? Oh yeah, of course they don't have balut here. My husband always thinks it's the most disgusting thing, the balut. And so they don't have that. They always, when they talk about Filipino foods, they always think of balut because they say that on TV, that on durian, the durian and balut for some reason are always mentioned, that they are the disgusting food in the Philippines. One smells like poop and the other one is so nasty and gross, eating the live head of a duck or something. I have never tasted balut. But anyway, other cultural differences, the food will be different. And so you have your rice, so you're gonna have to have your rice cooker then. A Catholic church, there is a Catholic church nearby, so you can still go to church. In mine, I have to drive 25-30 minutes to go to a Catholic, but I left it. So now my church is only 5 minutes from me. So church, food, dances, they will have school dances. Like if you work at a high school, they will have like a couple of times that they will have school dances, and prom is one of them. And the other one would be like a Valentine or homecoming or something. They would have 2 or 3 dances. And a lot of time they may ask you to chaperone. So that means that you are going to be watching that, making sure nobody's, they'll be making out. You know what making out is? Like they're kissing and all this right there in the dance floor. The kids are. And then when I was assistant principal at one time, I had this camera, a big screen TV in my room, and it was connected to all the cameras in the school. So I would like look at it and check on it and whatever. And I had this boy, every time I checked this camera, he was kissing some girl and he was hiding. He thinks that the camera is not seeing him, and I see him. I said, "There's Alan again with a different girl." So finally, I got the mom's phone number. I would just text her, "Okay, I want you to come over because I want you to see this video." And her son was kissing 3 different girls in one day, in 3 different locations in the school. So anyway, by the steps, by the fountain, the different places. And I'm like, yeah. So anyhow, so those are the things you have to deal with, the culture, because I don't know in the Philippines if that happens. Do they do that there? The high school kids? No, they don't, right? I don't think we dare, huh?
They do now.
They do now?
Yes.
I just know when I was there in the 80s, we have some students that would, we have some classmates, of course.
More than that.
Yeah.
Dr. Merlina.
We would like, we have uniforms, right? They would bring a bag and then they would put their civilian clothes there, and then they would cut class and then they would go to movies. That's what the extent of what they did. I never did that. I guess I was always like pretty much afraid of my dad who was going to kill me. So I never did, but my sister did. And she got pregnant and had this baby and all this. And that really scared me more because they were about to kill her. That's how mad they were, my brothers. And, anyway, she ended up to be in Dallas now. And her daughter is now in the military. Really turned out well, but it started really bad, But anyway, what other cultural things that I need for you to know? When you get here, you are so tired. You're so tired, and you don't even, and you have jet lag because you cannot sleep because your time difference is catching up on you. Like you will be up at night, you'll be up during the day and then sleepy at, the opposite. You'll be wanting to sleep during the day. Anyhow, so the trick to that is actually to try to make yourself sleep. Like go ahead and follow the schedule of the new place. If they're sleeping, you need to try to make yourself sleep. Because if you don't do that, then your body's not going to adjust quickly to the new schedule. I do that when I go to the Philippines. My husband would take 2 or 3 days to recover because he will just like sleep in the schedule of Arkansas. And I do it like, oh, we just come in there. Okay, I'm just going to go to, go shopping now. I'm going to go to the mall now. I'm going to go do, go eat some Filipino foods. I would do what the locals do and sleep whenever it's time. But my husband would just do the opposite. And that's why it takes him forever to be active. Well, me, I'm already done a lot of things. I've already visited a lot of people. Do that when you come here too, is try to, adjust quickly. And because the schools here are in poverty, you may have students with not enough supplies. So I was so bad about being Filipinos and being so disciplined Filipinos. I was as a teacher, I was very disappointed with the students. But then when somebody explained to me, Merlina, it's because they don't have the money. And I always thought, well, Americans, they're rich, they're Americans. And no, they're just have poor people like you all have in your country. And I said, they don't have that. Do not punish them because they're poor. So you need to, so now they give the teachers $500 every teacher gets $500 to buy things in their classroom. So you buy a bunch of pencils, a bunch of paper, a bunch of things, and then that's a community property. So you just like, you put it in a supply place, and then you just say, if you run out, you don't get them in trouble. You have something to give them. But then you also want to teach them responsibility by not just throwing it or whatever. You keep up with it. Because otherwise your big box of pencils will be gone, the first month. And so you have to have a balance of responsibility. I always had my students like right there. They have class numbers. So I have them to put class numbers under things. And that way, if you see a pencil down there, it's number 13, that's so-and-so, So I would arrange them in ABC order, and I will, so when I ask them, like on fire drills, they have a once a month fire drills. So all I have to do is say 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's, 13 is missing. Oh, so-and-so is missing, so it's very easy to do that because you have to memorize their order. You just, they do the number and they arrange it by their numbers, so that helps me a lot. Because I labeled everything by their number. They have this little cabinet or whatever, for example, to put their things in, just label with their numbers. And so anyway, so yeah, that helps. And that's expected to for you to be aware that they will have that required fire drill. And you need to know, like, have your kids know where to line up, what they do. And they have drills for different things. Like if it's a tornado, they have to go under the chairs, and they have to protect their head under a chair. And then if it is different things, if it's a fire, then they have a place, everybody has a place to go and line up and which part of the outside they need to be. So it's an orderly thing. And then they timed it because they have to make sure that it's done in a certain time, and they have a fire marshal to check that there was nobody left in the room. So you have to pick a fire marshal, and then they will check, and they were the last person to leave the room. And so it's very it's supposed to be really organized. The first time you do it, of course, it's not. But then later on, they will correct you. They will say, hey, so-and-so, you were not very fast. So if this is a real fire, you could have lost some children. So it's a big deal. And okay, I'm trying to think about, so I trying to think of things that shocked or surprised me when I came here. Oh yeah, one thing is that the first time that I went into a bank, I said, as my husband said, what are you looking for? And I said, there's no guards. There's no guard. There's no armed guard anywhere. You don't have any guards. The only, not even in any like courts or anything. There's no guard. If you see a guard with a gun, that's a military place. That's the only place that would have people with guns there. But other than that, any place here, you don't have guns. Even the casino, for example, they have lots. No, they have a guard, but they don't have guns. They have like somebody treat you, just greet you, say, hello, how are you, whatever. And if you're under 21, like some of our teachers that look so young, they get ID'd all the time. So finally I said, do you have like a bracelet or something that she could wear so she won't be ID'd every few minutes? They do. They have a green bracelet or something that the camera would see, okay, that person is 21. Anyway, so different things like that, because they don't have the worry about getting robbed, although in that Delta area is much more crimes than ours. Like I've been here 35 years, and the only murder that I remember is one murder. And this one happened, like an old woman was killed by the husband for her social security check. And he cut her up and put her in a cooler, and then put some cement or whatever and dump her in the bridge. And then she popped up. And of course, the woman had like a tattoo, and that's how they determined. And that's the only thing that I remember that was somebody killed. And so that's how peaceful it is. And so, but anyway, in that area, they might have some, so you have to lock your houses. In the Philippines, do you always lock your houses, or is it open? You lock your houses? Because in a city, we don't. Well, we have a gate there, so we lock the gate. But here in here, most of us don't have gates, so it's just open. If you come to my house, and don't advertise this, but I don't ever lock my doors. My car keys always in my car. And so my husband said, at first, can we not lock it? My husband said, well, what if we have somebody that's a friend of ours that need a car and they need to borrow? So just leave it there. And I'm like, really? I said, yeah, they'll leave us a note. I'm like, really? But anyway, somebody would come in, and they don't come in to steal. They come in to bring you food. Like my sister-in-law would come in and we're not there, she would knock, don't know. So she would just come and bring me pies or bring me ham or something, you know, put it in my refrigerator and just leave me a note saying, Merlina, you know, I have too many of this, or I cook, you know, for the church, and you know, you were not there, so I'm bringing you this food or whatever. So they'll just give you a note. So that's a Southern, they call that Southern hospitality. And so, but of course it depends on where you are. But this is where the part of Arkansas that you are in is the difference is the where it is. So they are in the Delta, which means that you are very close to the Mississippi River. Like in Helena, where Mike and them and Johnson and Dinobi, you are 10 minutes from the Mississippi River. So you have to cross this bridge that connects the Mississippi, you know, spell Mississippi and Arkansas, and you cross this bridge and say, welcome to Arkansas, in the middle of it, and then on the other side, welcome to Mississippi. So in the middle of the bridge is usually where the border is. And there's not really border, but that's how you think of it. Like, okay, I'm passing Arkansas now, passing Mississippi now, and you can see this big old Mississippi River, you know, from below. And so anyway, same thing with we're neighbors with Tennessee. So on the other side, on the eastern side. And so when we go to Memphis, then you see this welcome to Tennessee, and then welcome to Arkansas side. And that's where Elvis was born. So you can go to, that's only an hour and a half from Helena, and you see Elvis's home. And that's like more than 1 million people go there to visit his home, you know, as a tourist attraction. And so, and they have the best zoo. Memphis Zoo is one of the biggest zoos in America, and also St. Louis. But anyway, they have the panda from China and all these things. And then they have, of course, in our bucket list to visit with some of the Filipinos here, we want to go to Disney World in Orlando. We want to go to the Grand Canyon in Colorado. Anyway, so there is a World of Wonders in Springfield, Missouri, which is only about 3 hours. And so I said, okay, we have this list. Looks like I may have to buy a van because there's so many of you, or else somebody will have to get their license and have a, you know, caravan of people, because there's only 5 people in my car, and there's 5 people in another car. So we need another third person that has a car so we can all follow, you know, and all this, or they just have to take turns. So what I do is when I stay at the hotel there, because I have to stay in a hotel every time I come, so I usually invite somebody to come. Like Maria is my regular. She would just say, yeah, I'm coming. You know, the other would like, oh, I'm tired, you don't want to stay. I would pick up Maria and she would hang around with me in the hotel, you know, to swim or do whatever. And then we have free food, so I would, you know, feed her and all that, and we play a little bit, you know, of slots machine, and then we go upstairs and sleep. And then I would go to her. I usually invite her when I know I'm going to her school the next day. So she'll just ride with me, and I'll just drop her in her classroom. And sometimes we're running late. I said, I have to drop you off, and I'll go pick up breakfast for us in McDonald's. So I'll drop her off and I go to McDonald's, pick up breakfast, and then we'll eat in her room. That way, if her students are in, you know, we're already okay. I don't want her to be late. But anyway, we do a lot of that nearly every week, seems like. But anyway, so that's all I can think of. Lots of shopping, expensive. The first time that you come here, you'll always translate it to peso. I'm now thinking in dollars. So I'm like, okay, that's 20,000, but then automatically, so that's 1 million pesos, you know? So that's kind of how I gauge it still, is because that's how the Filipino thing is, you know, 10,000, that's 500,000, you know, I would just like do that. So just like I do the opposite when I go to the Philippines, and I would say, oh my God, that's only $7. You know, my husband said, don't use the word only, because you use only if it's 1 cent or something. If it's more than 1 cent, you say not only. But you will do the same. You will go here and you see the prices, and you go back to the Philippines and you are very impressed, like how cheap it is. My son, being American, he went down there in 2018 and he's needing a haircut. And I said, we'll go to the mall, and they have the best haircuts in the mall. So he went down there and he asked how much, you know, of course he has his own money because we give him money. And she said, 100 pesos. My son said, $2? That's all? Because he is so used to paying 25 bucks. You know, here, because he gets the whole treatment, you know, the massage thing, the whole treatment, like a spa for men. And so he gave the lady, he paid for the 100 pesos and gave the lady 200 pesos. And so this lady was so happy, and she said, "Oh, mom, your son is so nice. Gave me this much money, and I only make this much, and your son nearly paid for my whole day." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's very nice of you." I was praising my son that he did that, and he would like give his cousin some money because he would say, $10 is 500 pesos, and his cousin, the younger, little high school, and they just think that's a lot of money. I said, "Mom, that's not a lot of money," because he would mow the lawns or something. I would make, he would make, like when we had a car wash here, he would just hose down the base of the car wash, and would pay him like $100 for doing that. And so he thought that's really not nothing, but my cousins were so happy with $10. So it's kind of put it in, just put it in relative term, I guess, that it's a little different. But if you are spending money here when you came from peso and you're spending dollars, it's really going to feel high to you. But then just know that it's going to be the opposite when you go home.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have. So you said something about what you learned. Okay, Mike, what's also the last message you have? What did you learn? I know you were asking about yours, but is there something you learned that could help you when you come? Or is Mike still there? I see Mike. Yeah. Did you learn something?
Yeah, I learned that we must be prepared in everything, physically, mentally, everything.
Yeah.
Because I experienced that before when I came here in Qatar. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Especially for new first timers.
Yes.
Like what I told to Ma'am April, Ma'am Dina. I told them that we are joking. No, I will wait for it. Because she told me that she will not cry. I told I will sure you will not cry.
The first week you will cry. Maria was crying to me and said, "Oh, I'm alone. This is the first time I've been alone." And I'm like, "Oh, talk to me." So she was over there showing me her apartment or whatever. And she said, "I'm by myself." And I said, "Don't worry, you'll be okay." But I know what you mean. So they're lucky if you room with them, because then you'll be there to guide them. Because it is always hard, especially if you have kids. That hurts so much when you're missing your kids and your husband, wife. So it's really hard. So for husband and wife, you need to just come together. Have somebody that could take care of your kids.
My youngest daughter is only, I think, 2 years old, and now she's 7, and my eldest daughter is 7 when I left, and now she's grade 6.
But you have been talking to them, like they know you, right? Because you're talking to them all the time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because I have my vacation on 2018 after 2 years, and then December I go for vacation because I'm teaching in Philippine school Doha. They're following the curriculum, the education setup in the Philippines. That's why we are. And also, Doc, I asked about, you mentioned a while ago that the situation of the students there, some of them doesn't have money to buy some school stuff. Is it okay for us to bring, for example, because I have here a laminating machine. I think I have already 2 in the Philippines. I sent that home in my on my wife, and I still have 1 here. Is it okay for us to bring that, the laminating machine?
Oh, no, you don't need it. Your school have a big one. Your school has a really big one that everybody uses.
They will
you don't have
provide
to buy that. No, your library will have all the supplies, all those rolling papers and different colored papers and all that. You'll have that for your bulletin board and anything for supply. And you have this, there's 15 co-ops, cooperatives, they call them educational cooperatives in Arkansas. And one of them is in Helena, right there in Helena. So you just, and you can do anything there, like make books, make anything, laminating anything. You can even ask them to laminate it for you. And so it's very handy. Yeah, you don't need any of that. No. Yeah.
So
good question. No, don't bring it. Oh no, because it's free. You don't have to pay. Yeah. It's part of, if you go to the co-op, you charge it to the school. You have to make sure that the principal knows. But yeah, they're pretty, you'll be very supported. That just what I did when I was a teacher. If I feel so bad because I know that some of my students were really poor because we owned a cable company and I know where they lived and I saw their homes and and all this. So I would send them like food in the like Friday, I would send them some food. Of course, I have to talk to the parents, make sure it's okay. And then I would send them like, some healthy foods or whatever in their backpack. And I would do it like privately so the others will not see and make fun of them or anything. So I would always like check with the parent, make sure I'm doing this, all that. So he will have something to snack on, or, I would just kind of make it nonchalant like that. On your book fair, when once a year we have a book fair here during parent teacher conference, I guess twice a year, they have a book fair, which means in the library, they sell books to the kids and the kids can come and buy. And a lot of times these poor kids do not have any money to buy. And so what we ended up doing is that the counselor, the teachers would contribute money to the counselor, like $5 or whatever it is that they ask us. And so everybody will contribute. And then the counselor would get books from the book fair, and then she would do a drawing. She would say, this is a drawing and this person won, but it's not really won. She actually had names of people that need to be given books to, because we gave her names. And so then she would just announce it on the intercom that this person won. But it's really because we donated it, but we are not, we're not gonna tell them. One time, and when I was an assistant principal, I had this boy that I really, really liked. This boy is very hardworking. But then I found out from the counselor that this boy has had to walk to school really far away, and that's not very common here. And then because the parents both were handicapped, and also the sister was also handicapped, he's the only one doesn't have any handicap. So he was really pretty much like kind of taking care of everybody. So when I found out about that, they said their car didn't have any wheels, like tires, 4 of them, and that's like $200 something. And so she told me about this, and so I called my husband. I said, hey, can we donate some tires to this family? Now, I don't want our names there. I just want the counselor to say, this is from an anonymous, donation person, donor. And so we did that. I went down there and got with the counselor. We went and got the tires. We delivered it to them. And then we say, oh, there's somebody that's anonymous that's donating it to you. And they were so happy. And they, and they put it on. And so I told my husband, you should have seen how, oh my God, their faces look like we just like brought them the world. They were so happy. I can't believe somebody would be, nice enough to do that for us. And I was so glad my husband agreed, that I said we really could help this family. And so I would do things like that, but I would never want them to know it was me. The counselor was the only person that knew that it was Merlina, but because she had to be told, because she was with me. But other than that, I said I don't want the teachers to know. I don't want anybody to know, because that's how the right way to give is not to be acknowledged for it. So anyhow, so you will have cases like that where you just really, your heart really kind of bleeds for them and really want to help them. You will have that. And the sad thing about it is, because we had a cable company and I was doing the billing, I would always know if they had basic or they have everything. And some of this my kids in poverty, they have everything. They have HBO, Cinemax, Disney, all these extra things that were costing a lot of money, 3 times the regular amount. And I said, why would they do that when their kids cannot buy pencils? But my husband said, quit judging them. And I'm like, I'm not judging, it's just irresponsible. But sometimes, when you do the research on poverty, entertainment first. That is very common. Entertainment comes first. So in fact, whenever you have a bad economy, your entertainment business, like movies and all the fun things, actually raise their income, because people would do entertainment first. And you see that in the Philippines, you see that here. So anyway, so you can tell a middle class and a poor and a people in poverty is because a middle class would always worry about saving. Middle class would be, and we are a bunch of teachers, we're middle class, so, but I was very poor when I was in the Philippines. I didn't know I was poor until I came here. I'm like, yeah, we were poor. We were not hungry, but we didn't have much things, there were 6 of us. But anyway, but they're proud. That's why I always want to make sure that I talk to the parents. I have this, my son had this Nike that he only used once and it's still looking like new. Is it okay if I give your son this? Do you think your son would want to wear it? I would always do that, because I don't want to ever the parent mad at me, because it has happened to some of our co-teachers that they said, how dare you? What do you think of us? No. There's pride there. So you just make sure that you communicate with the parents, because parents are your partners in education anyway. So communication is key. And also when you get here, talk to your principal. If you do not know what's going on and what should I do, your first person to ask should be that, you're not, there's a person that's going to be assigned to you, your go-to person, like a partner to you or your team leader. Ask them first, and if they don't know, then ask the principal. You should always do that. So when in doubt, ask somebody, because you do not want to get in trouble because you did not know. And another thing I would say is teach but not touch. There's so many teachers here that get in trouble with doing inappropriate. It's inappropriate. They didn't know that it is. Like girls and in touching you just I would just, this guys in high school, because I'm short, I'm only 4'10", 4'11", and they would just like put their hand, oh, Dr. McCullough, like this. I'm like, I was like, what did I say? I said, that's the biggest insult you do me. Like, it's almost like, oh, you're